Alright everyone, hello. Let me just get seated here. And I will check out the comments right now. Okay, so Steve is here. We got Let's Build. We got Mark. How's it going? Tyler's here. How's it going? Hello, Weekly. Hey, Ocean Liners. How's it going? Hey, Element. Mike's here. Ivan, how's it going? Brian's here. Hello, Brian. And Rayanne. And Exakelic. Alright, so I'm so excited to have this tea time because I had to cancel the last one. I was really busy last weekend. Come on. I was really busy last weekend, so I couldn't do it. And I'm pretty hungry, so I've already got kind of an appetite today. So there's so much to talk about today, actually, because I was going to tell you exactly why I was busy this past weekend. Some really good news and stuff to share. Yeah. Alright. Well, again, my chat is not keeping up with people talking. Where is it? Alright, let's see. Hello, Dangerous Brian. Weekly says, did you get a new locomotive? No, I can't afford to buy a new one. No, I have the same two locomotives. Let's see. Thanks, Rylan. Oceanliners asks, why did Cunard change the Queen Mary Scotch boilers with Yarrow boilers? Because Yarrow boilers were more fuel efficient, and so they could get a higher volume of steam out of them with less fuel being spent. So because of that, they decided during Queen Mary's construction that instead of doing all Scotch boilers, they would do 24 Yarrow boilers. And I think the only reason why they kept 3 Scotch boilers was because engine room, or boiler room 1, I'm sorry, I don't think would have been big enough to fit any Yarrow boilers in. So I think that's why they decided to keep the 3 Yarrow boilers in that one. Alright. So I'm just letting the water boil. Should be done soon. I just ordered some new teas and stuff, so I got more Earl Grey coming in, but I also ordered something called Lady Grey, so that one's also coming in. Today's tea, however, is going to be Earl Grey. So I'm just doing the preheating part of the thing, where I remove half of the water in order to pour in a little bit of boiling water. Then I'll let that sit for a little bit while it heats up. We don't want to... Come on. We don't want to shock the china. Hey Shiloh, how's it going? Exokelek says, do you have any opinion on the SS France 1960 version? I actually don't know anything about the 1960 version, so I couldn't tell you. Oceanliners asks, how did the Mauretania davits work? It's very simple. They swung out, so if they were lined up with the ship, you could swing them out like that. So it was really simple. You just, yeah. Let's see. Weekly asks, can you show us all your locomotives and rolling stock quickly? Or quick. I can't right now, but I have a video that shows all of it. So if you go on my channel, there's a video that's, I think it's called The Evolution of My Model Railroad, something like that. And you'll see all that stuff there. So I unfortunately can't show you right now up close what it all looks like. Yeah, Tyler, I saw. Ivan says Jeepers Creepers in the background. I don't know what you mean. Oh, the song Jeepers Creepers. Oh, okay. Ozzy asks, how is your weather, Alex? It's hot here in Fort Mojave. It's supposedly not bad. It feels warm though for being up here. It's right now 74 degrees. And that's not bad anywhere else, but when you live up north where it's always cold, suddenly going to 74 degrees kind of feels a bit warm. So we've been having really strange weather. Like we'll have a nice warm sunny day like today, and then all of a sudden the next day it'll be cold and rainy. And so it's just like flipping an on-off switch, and that really just, it makes you constantly cold or hot, and it's, yeah. Hey Conrad, how's it going? Alright, so I think these are hot enough now. Yeah. Go ahead and bring that back up. Ugh, that track switch always gives me so much trouble. The locomotives always lose power over it, and then I'm frustrated because then I have to shake the table to get them to move again. Okay, boiling water's in there. Now I can put the Earl Grey in. There we go. Put the lid back on. Okay, now give me a second because I'm going to have to clean that track switch over there, or else the darn train will keep stopping on that for the whole rest of the live stream. So just give me a second. There. That should be better. Hopefully. We'll see. These tracks require so much cleaning. Every time, before I can ever use this thing, I have to clean the tracks. don't exactly know what's causing it to get so dirty so quickly, but it just... It's like, in between using it, I have to clean the tracks all the time. I can't imagine what it's like to have one of those model railroads that takes up your whole, like, you know, attic or your whole basement. Like, how do you, you know, maintain all of that? Like, I have enough trouble maintaining this thing. No, see? Now it's working. It went right over the track switch just fine. There's just something about that particular track switch that always gets really dirty. Okay, so 3 more minutes on the T. Let's see. Ozzy says, "Don't burn your hands." Yeah, I'll try not to. Thanks, Gregory. Sounds like a good book, Tyler. But it says, "Did you know that less than respectable British men called women birds?" I mean, yeah. Yeah, I have. I've heard of that before. Ken says, "Hey, Alex, was wondering if Queen Mary is still utilizing any of its old electric system, lights, etc. Have any electricians been hired to inspect for safety?" So when it comes to the electrical system of the Queen Mary, no, not any bit of it is still being used. A lot of it was kept in place, like in the walls. There's still conduits and stuff, and then sometimes you go into like a room and there's still, well, not like a cabin, but like a particular room, and there's still like a what do you call it? A breaker box that still has like the old fuses and stuff in it. But no, everything that is currently electrified on the ship is electrified under an American system, and it has to be that way because the British systems are not compatible with American electrical systems. So they have to operate it under an American system. So but yeah, they ran all new conduit and stuff through the ship to electrify everything, and the current electrical system on the ship is only handling, I think, less than half of what it's designed to. So actually you could power even more of the ship right now and it'll still work just fine on the current electrical system. So oh yeah, Mark, because Australia is in your guys' winter, isn't it? Conrad says the train is reversed. Yes, it is. You're the first person to notice that. I did reverse the locomotives and one of the trains, and I'm running it in the reverse direction. You know, because when you run it constantly in one direction, you can wear out one side of the whole train. So it's better on the system to evenly wear it out. So Keith says, "I got a track cleaning car for mine, and you pull it behind a locomotive." Yeah, I looked into getting one of those, but I mean, doesn't like the pad get dirty before it even goes all the way around the system? Like I feel like with these tracks, like I use different methods. Like sometimes I'll use like a paper towel to wipe it down, and then I have to like change out the paper towel halfway through wiping it because it's so dirty. And then of course, like if it's extra dirty, I have this special scrubber that scrubs the rails. And then that thing, I'm constantly washing it because it just gets like all black real fast. And I have no idea how such a small amount of track gets so dirty. So like I feel like I have to work like hard to like just keep the thing clean. Okay, so it is now time for the tea, and it's also time for me to burn my fingers on this lid. Oh, no, I didn't this time. Just wait, I'll probably burn my fingers when I put the lid back on. There we go. Give that a quick stir around. I'm also trying this new milk today. As some of you know, I am pretty lactose intolerant, and I can have some amounts of dairy in the day, but if I just overload myself with dairy all the time, I just, have like the worst stomach ache. So I usually get oat milk. I usually buy oat milk. I only like the Silk brand. It's the only one the only oat milk I actually like to drink. But lately, Amazon hasn't been selling it. And Amazon is where I get most of my groceries from. So I'm like, what am I going to do? And I saw that Silk is offering this other thing called Next Milk. But apparently it's made of oat milk, soy milk, and coconut milk combined. And I normally don't like coconut milk or soy milk. But I was like, I'll try this out because it's supposed to taste just like milk. It doesn't, but it doesn't taste bad. It actually tastes pretty good. It just doesn't taste like milk as you would think of it. Yeah. And so anyway, I've got it here in this thing. It's very white. Like oat milk is kind of like a ivory color. That's the color of oats, actually. But this is like a very white, like brilliant white color, the way that milk is. So I'm actually kind of curious, you know, to see what it's like in tea. Because I did try like a glass of it, not a full glass, but a small amount before I started the live stream. And I was kind of like, hey, this actually is pretty good. So we're going to try that out in the tea today. The other thing too is I actually prefer to have oat milk in my tea than regular milk. I have had regular milk in my tea. The reason why I prefer oat milk is because what I noticed is regular milk will actually like mute the flavors of the tea. And but the oat milk doesn't do that. It doesn't mute the flavors. And so that's why I've been liking to do oat milk in the tea instead. Not just because I'm lactose intolerant. So I'm curious to see if this one will do that. If it'll mute the flavor of the tea. So let's see. 1/2. Give that a quick stir. Yeah, Steve, I've heard of Bright Boy. I've used it a few times. I have something that's like Bright Boy. But yeah, it's just that I have to keep cleaning it because when I use it to clean the track, it gets dirty real fast. And I'm getting annoyed with having to clean the track cleaning tool, you know? You know? I'm like, oh, that tea is so good. All right, time for the new Silk Next Milk, whatever that is. And then we shall see what it does to the tea. That definitely muted the flavor of the tea. Definitely. There is almost no flavor to that tea left. So the next milk, I can see that being useful for when I cook or when I have cereal, which is never. But I will definitely never again use it to put in my tea, because that really muted the flavor. And now there's almost no flavor left. So, that's disappointing. Mike says, I wonder if goat's milk is good. I've had goat's milk before. It's pretty good. I don't find it in too many places, to be honest. And it's usually more expensive at times, depending on where you're buying it, when you're buying it. Yeah, I haven't... I'll be honest, I haven't looked on Amazon to see if they sell it. So I haven't tried. Maybe I should try that, but... Conrad says you're building up calluses on your fingers to not get burned. Oh, Tyler, yeah, I don't get a blister trying to open that. You know what I do for things like opening, like, soda bottles and jars that won't open? This is really dangerous, so only have your parents do this if you're a kid. But if you have, like a lighter or a gas burner stove, you just quickly put the cap, either the cap of the bottle or the lid of the jar, like just quickly like kind of move it forward and back away from the heat and kind of twist at the same time, so you're kind of heating up the lid. And you want the lid warm, not like hot enough that you'll burn your hands. And then you'll also want to have like a towel or like a oven mitt or something. And then all you're trying to do is heat up the lid, not the container. And that'll expand the lid a little bit, and that'll give you a little bit more ease in opening up whatever it is you're opening. So that's a little idea for you. But you don't want to melt anything. You don't want to melt the lids. You don't want to overheat the lids. You're just warming up the lid enough to do that. So, Steve, it's nickel silver. Let's Build says, when is the next train video? When I have a lot of money, because I don't have any to spend on this train set. There's nothing I can do to continue on building the train set until I have more money, and I don't have any for the foreseeable month or two. So, so yeah, it'll be a long time, folks. Ozzy says, I thought your post to your picky up when you're drinking tea. I don't know it. What? I was like, okay. Oh yeah, Mark says, if I cannot open a metal lid from a jar, I run the lid under hot tap water. Yep, there you go. There's another thing. The heat is what expands the lids. My lord, that thing is squeaky. All right. Time for a sandwich. I've been looking forward to these. So I suppose I should get into the big news that I wanted to tell you guys. And it has to do with the Queen Mary, and it has to do with me, and it has to do with my friend Steve in the chat there. So basically, you guys know that that for like the past year, I've been volunteering as kind of like an advisory role for QMI Restore the Queen, the only 501c3 nonprofit specifically dedicated to restoring the Queen Mary. Well, we had this really important meeting with the city of Long Beach set up for June 6th, which was a couple days ago on Monday. And in time for that, the organization decided to do some restructuring a little bit. Yeah, Blue Ribbon Productions in the chat is the Steve I'm talking about, by the way. And so as part of their restructuring, first of all, they the former executive director, Mary Rower, and her husband, Mike Rower, who served as executive secretary of the company, both decided to take a step back in order to handle more of the administrative roles of the organization. And so that left an open position for the executive director role. And so they voted in my friend Steve here to the executive director of QMI. So congratulations to Steve for that. That was really fun. And then, as well, I was voted in to the board of directors of QMI as the director of public relations. So that is my new role with QMI Restore Their Queen. I am officially on the board and officially working in a capacity, volunteering my time to help their efforts, again, in the public relations role. So my job as the public relations director is to ensure that the organization is having good, healthy communications with the city of Long Beach and with other organizations, as well as healthy communications within the organization as well, and to just ensure that that our public image is where we want it to be. So that's kind of what we do now. So Steve and me have new roles within the company, so that's pretty cool. But that's not even the biggest news either. That's not even it. And you'll learn more about all of this on Friday, because I'll be putting out a Queen Mary repair update. But the other cool thing is we had that meeting on the 6th, this last Monday. Thank you so much, everybody, for saying congratulations. I'm sorry, but the train is so squeaky. So we had that meeting on June 6th. It was the new executive secretary, Mary Rower. It was Steve, the executive director, and then it was myself, public relations, meeting with 3 members of the city. I'm not sure if I should mention them by name. It's not secret. I mean, they're people who are in charge of various departments within the city, and their link is with the current workings going on with the Queen Mary and its restoration. And so we were kind of just negotiating, like, what can we do as a nonprofit to help raise funds for the restoration of the ship and all of that. So we had a really great conversation with them. It went really well. Everybody was enthusiastic about working together and, having a collaboration and stuff. And so Long Beach had agreed to start work on putting together a proof of concept project for us. And so what that means is, since this will be the first time we will raise money specifically towards the restoration of the ship, we will need to start off small with a simple project where we can kind of put that together, get it nice and polished, execute what we need to execute in terms of fundraising, and then if everything goes well and our method is well put together, then we can continue on doing more and more and more, and the projects will get bigger and bigger and more expensive as time goes on. So it'll probably start off from something really small. I don't want to give any examples because we don't even know yet what they have in mind. The city is going to have their historic resources advisor provide us with a list of options. So some things that they together have selected that might work well with us, and then from there we will decide on something that we think works for us as well. And so from that point on, then we'll begin the fundraising efforts for that, and the city will put together a team of people who will do the work itself. And yeah, so it's possible. Again, negotiations on that are still happening. We're still kind of hammering out the details. It'll take a couple of months to do that. These kinds of projects take time, so it's not something we can just walk in there and be like, all right, let's pass around the the money bowl and start collecting money. Like, we have to negotiate these things and get everything working and everything planned out. But it's possible that around September we will be able to start raising funds for whatever project it is that we've agreed upon. So that might be the time frame we're looking at. But the other cool thing is in our talks with the city, they did say that that they're thinking the ship may open around November. I know I've been saying around Halloween lately. That's because that was the more optimistic time frame. It is possible the ship will open anywhere between Halloween and Christmas. They're thinking more like November because there's just been a lot of work, and actually it's kind of cool, all the work that they've been doing, because we were talking to the director of public works for the city, who's leading the the department that has been doing the maintenance aboard the ship. And there's been a lot of maintenance. There's been just lots of light fixtures being repaired. The smoking room is getting some restoration work done. They said they've been replacing some flooring around the ship. I don't think all the flooring, that would cost a lot of money. But I think some of the worst parts of the flooring around the ship is being replaced. Just tons of stuff. And we'll have all this in detail on Friday's repair update. But yeah, there's been just a lot of stuff happening behind the scenes just this past week alone with us at QMI. And then, of course, with what's been happening the last couple of months with the city and the work that they're doing for the ship. So there's just been a lot of good news happening. And it's made everybody so excited, because this is finally something that, that we've been working towards. Mary and Mike and the rest of the team at QMI have been working towards this goal of partnership with the city for a long time. And so finally it looks like it might be coming together, and we're just really excited for the future. So yeah, that's just all the good news. And again, there'll be an official update happening this Friday that you guys will be able to watch. So thank you, everybody. Yeah, this is actually really exciting. There's just so much stuff that that we're gonna be busy in the coming months, and that'll be a good thing, So, and hopefully with time I'll be able to keep on giving you guys more in-depth updates about the Queen Mary and stuff. Yeah, Conrad, I don't think we're going to give free tickets for stuff. Even as a fundraising event, that wouldn't be a good idea. We don't make money if we don't fundraise, Sequad, that sounds pretty cool. You gotta send me a picture or something when you're done. Oh man, I've been craving a cucumber sandwich for like a week. Like I was looking forward to Sunday's live stream, but which didn't happen because I was really busy. But even then, I didn't have the ingredients for the sandwich, so I wouldn't have been able to have the sandwich that day. So I got a friend that's visiting tomorrow, and we got to decide if he's gonna come here. Well, we might do another live stream tea time tomorrow, because I haven't discussed it with him yet, but he really wants to do, like, you know, he wants to have tea with me. It's Chris, in case you guys want to know. It's Chris. He was on my tea time before. But I know he wants to do that, and so if I were to meet him in Portland, we'd have to just like figure out how to get back in time, and so we'll see. We'll kind of work out the details, but I think we might do a live stream tomorrow, just like this, tea time. You know, I have plenty of cucumber for cucumber sandwiches, so I have the stuff. Yeah, folks, if you want to listen to the soundtrack that's playing in the background right now, there's a link in the description of the video that can take you to that, so you can hear it in like better detail and stuff. Hello, RMS Olympic. I think you missed all the exciting news. Yeah, you missed it all. That's okay. You can probably go back and rewatch it or something. Oh, gosh. Okay. I'm going to finish this cup. Because the next cup I'm going to pour, I'm not going to put cream in it. Because, like I said, that cream, it just completely dulled the flavor of the tea. The oat milk doesn't do that, but this new next milk does. So... all right. Zachary says, which ocean liner do you think had the best interior? Queen Mary. Yeah, it's real simple. It's real simple. Anybody who wants to know what ocean liner do I think had the best interiors, exteriors, design, style, size, anything, Queen Mary is always my answer. She's my favorite merchant ship ever. So almost all my answers will lead back to the RMS Queen Mary. Hey, Professor, how's it going? Well, so many people are tuning in now. Everybody that's tuning in, I revealed some really cool information earlier, so you'll have to go back and rewatch. There's some big announcements that I just made, but I will also remake the announcements on Friday. So you'll hear a lot of the same stuff, but in more detail on Friday. But yeah. Cyrus says, can you do a Bremen versus Queen Mary video? I don't think I will. It's not something that appeals to me. I have so many other videos to do, actually. Like a lot of videos. Let's see. RMS Olympics says, I wish that QE2 could sail again. You know what? I mean, there comes an end for everything. You know, QE2 did a lot of sailing. She's been, you know, on the ocean longer than most other ships. So, you know, she had a long life, a long career at sea, and we should just be thankful that she still exists. You know, like, I'm thankful that Queen Mary still exists. So, yeah, I mean, it would be nice to see one of these classic ocean liners still sailing, but, you know, ultimately, I'm just, you know, they've been around for a long time, and I kind of understand. I'm like, well, you know, there's an end to everything, you know. Eventually, one day, we will not even have the QE2 or Queen Mary anymore, for whatever reason. So we should just enjoy what we have now in whatever capacity it's in, you know. Steve says, Alex, you're not biased or anything when it comes to the Queen Mary, right? I mean, you know, there's a little bit of bias there. Thomas Brooks says, do you think that they have or are going to revarnish the first class smoking room? I would love to see the tiger wood better. As far as my understanding is, yes. Because all they announced was that they are going to restore the walls of the room. So I imagine they'd have to, you know, they'd have to strip all the varnish, because you can't restore the walls with the varnish on it. That doesn't work, you know. So I do think that they will strip the walls of its varnish. They will probably have to strip it of the old, what do you call it? The old stain that was on it, and then re-stain it, and then re-varnish it. So I think there's a very good chance it'll look really, really spectacular when the ship reopens. Like they were telling us, the city was telling us the other day that, you know, that the ship will be like a whole new ship when people get to see it, which was a really exciting statement. You know, they said they were really polishing up the ship. They're really making it look nice. They want people to be wowed when they go back onto it. So there's a lot of really good news. Again, I mentioned a lot of other stuff just a few minutes ago before a lot of you tuned in. So some of you will have to go back and rewatch the beginning of this video, and not the beginning, but, you know, couple minutes back from this point. And then we'll talk more on Friday. I'll have a update video out for you guys. So those are some good selections, Zachary. Rytopia asks, what is the point of the floating dry dock that Mauretania is in your pictures? Floating dry docks work really well for when you need to transport them, because sometimes it's more expensive and harder to build a permanent dry dock in one spot, and sometimes having a floating dry dock is a really beneficial thing, because then you can move it to other places where it needs to be, if only temporarily. if you build a permanent dry dock, there's always the chance that sometimes ships won't be in the area that you need it to be, you know. So that's what the benefit of a floating dry dock is. Let's build. Yeah, I know. I know. Sequad, I don't know. You'll have to ask Steve. Steve's in the chat, Blue Ribbon Productions. Oh yeah, he just answered. He says, no, I don't as far as I know. The last operation of Ghosts and Legends was still the original presentation created by RMS QSDI back in the early 2000s. Unfortunately, no one from RMS is involved with the Queen Mary anymore. He says he'll try and see if he can find out. Zom asks, if one were to tow a ship as big as Queen Mary, what would happen? Well, first of all, the seawall around the Queen Mary is removable. It's not permanent. It's permanent enough that it won't go anywhere, but it's removable. So if they ever need to move the Queen Mary, they can. They just move all the rocks out of there, and then they can push the ship backwards towards the deeper part of the bay. But towing a ship the size of the Queen Mary, while it has been done before, they've towed aircraft carriers and stuff, it is a very risky thing because sometimes the weather will turn on you, sometimes there'll be more wind or a really strong current, and that always puts extra strain on the tugboats that are doing the work. And there's been times in the past where certain vessels, maybe not even really big ones, sometimes smaller vessels like submarines and things, they've been known to have their mooring lines snap, and you know, while they're towing them and stuff like that, you know, things like that always happen. So Queen Mary being so big and so huge, if they were towing her somewhere, there's always the chance that a big gust, you know, big wind could come by, try to push the ship off course. It could snap the lines that the tugboats have, and the ship could start floating away. They'll have to go retrieve it, you know, but then it also depends on how far you're talking about towing the Queen Mary. There's a lot of people who are like, oh, why don't they tow her to you know, to the UK? First of all, I don't think she'd survive the journey, because it's one thing to tow her around in the protected harbor that she's in, because Long Beach Harbor is surrounded by a massive breakwater wall that kind of calms the choppy waters. But as soon as you go out to sea, you might hit some big swells. Now, the Queen Mary was designed to handle those swells, but that was, you know, she was designed to handle that at least 55 years ago. The other thing, too, is that, you know, a lot of the things that made her more stable at sea, such as in terms of weight, like the boilers and the engines and stuff, a lot of that has been removed. So while she is ballasted to keep her upright, I don't think she's ballasted enough to go out to sea. So the waves and the swells and things would really take a toll on her. You know, while she was designed to flex with the motion of the waves, she's getting old. And, you know, it's the same thing with older folks, you know. The older you get, the less you're able to bend without breaking. And so the Queen Mary will suffer from that too. Frankly, it's just very, very, very risky to move a ship the size of the Queen Mary across the Atlantic. They'd have to move her, first of all the way down to Panama, to the Panama Canal, to get her to the other side. That's a long voyage for towing a ship that large. So they did tow another ship. I think Kitty Hawk recently was towed from San Diego through the Panama Canal all the way up to Texas. So that was a big endeavor, but to tow Queen Mary to UK is well over twice that distance. Well over twice that distance. Probably almost 3 times that distance. Yeah, I'd say 3 times that distance. And that would just be, ooh, crazy. Just really crazy. Um, Steve, I'm going to make you a moderator. Just because, first of all, I trust you, but also because, you know, you never know if I need your help with moderating the chat. So far, there's nothing wrong. I'm just making you a moderator. Let's see. So, RMS Olympic asks, if the RMS Queen Mary and RMS Queen Elizabeth are sister ships, then why did RMS Queen Mary have 3 funnels while Queen Elizabeth had 2? So they're technically not sister ships. They were, according to the research I've done, in 1929, when both ships were originally designed, it was going to be, well, they designed one ship in 1929. They designed RMS Queen Mary. The idea was to create an exact duplicate of Queen Mary soon after Queen Mary's construction was finished. So originally the idea was that Queen Elizabeth would be an exact duplicate, therefore making her a sister ship. But what happened was, during the construction of Queen Mary, there was just a lot of changes going on, like a lot of changes. You know, there was several things, and then of course Queen Mary's construction was delayed by 2 years due to the Great Depression. So they had a lot of time to think about what things to alter. Queen Mary was not perfect while they were constructing her. They were starting to realize there were things that they could have done better. They realized that there were different ways that they could have designed the ship to look more modern, you know, because she was designed in 1929, but, you know, by the time Queen Mary launched, which was in 1934, the styles and the way that ships were looking had changed dramatically since 1929. So by the time they started work on Queen Elizabeth, they already knew they had to have a different look for the ship. As well as the fact that Queen Elizabeth, they decided, would not be a speed queen. You know, she would be fast enough to keep up for her cruising speed, just like Queen Mary. But she would not be the kind of ship to capture the blue ribbon. So they realized that they didn't need the same size of boilers. They didn't need the same horsepower out of the ship. Well, no, let me put that more precisely. They didn't need the same volume of steam to run the ship that Queen Mary would need to do her blue ribbon crossings. So there was just a lot of things that they needed different out of Queen Elizabeth as time went on. And so they made a lot of changes based on that. They ended up keeping the same hull shape. So Queen Elizabeth, aside from the pointed bow, has the exact same hull shape as Queen Mary. But they did do a lot of alterations to everything above that and everything inside of that. So they're not technically sister ships by technicality. But I'd say in spirit, they are sister ships. Because that's what they were designed for. They were designed to be together, working across, you know, the Atlantic. It was designed to be 2 ships from the very beginning. 2 ships that look very similar. So, that was the intent. And so, yeah. But by definition, they're not sister ships. Zachary asks, what's your opinion of Queen Elizabeth's interior versus Queen Mary? Wow. Whew, that second cup really hit my taste buds. So, to answer your question, my opinion about Queen Elizabeth's interiors versus Queen Mary, I like Queen Elizabeth's interiors. I really do. It's just that I prefer Queen Mary's interiors more. There's something about Queen Mary's interiors that they're softer. They're more rounded, you know? Like, when you look at Queen Elizabeth's interiors, there's a lot of hard edges everywhere. Because the style was changing by the time Queen Elizabeth was being put, you know, into service. they decided to go with it was still technically Art Deco. Queen Elizabeth was still technically Art Deco, but it was a much later version of Art Deco, a more 1930s Art Deco, whereas Queen Mary's Art Deco is more 1920s Art Deco. Yeah. But I still prefer Queen Mary's interiors over Queen Elizabeth. But Queen Elizabeth's interiors were like a next step for me. You know, like I like them a lot. So, yeah. Yeah, Nezzy, I don't see any. I don't see any other companies building an ocean liner anytime soon. I did say though that I do imagine. I do imagine one day, maybe 10 years from now, when fuel prices are more expensive, when the airline industry is overloaded with people, I think that's when we might see a small amount of ocean liners come back, because I think it's possible that the more wealthy passengers who, let's say, are not in a hurry to get where they're going might decide to opt for a transatlantic crossing over taking an airplane, or even not even transatlantic. It might be other locations. It might be other countries. So I imagine that the only people who would pay for that are really wealthy people who are not in a hurry. But I do think that maybe 10 years from now we might see a resurgence of some ocean liners come back, just in the sense that that it's to satisfy a need to get somewhere without the hassle of the airlines. Because fuel prices will keep going up, airplanes will be more and more expensive to operate, they'll get more and more crowded, the airports will be more and more crowded, and it'll just be a hassle to travel for leisure on an airplane, you know. So that's probably where ocean liners will come in. I don't imagine seeing a ton of them. I think maybe we'll see 3, you know. We might see one for the transatlantic, we might see one for the Pacific, and we might see one for, you know, the other areas like South Asia, Australia area, something like that, maybe. But I don't see it being a big thing. That's what I'm trying to say here. I don't see it being a big thing, and I don't know if any other company will do it. It might just be Cunard, but we'll see. You know. Right, Tupiep. Yeah, Cunard. They don't do a lot of television commercials, but they have done them over the years. They never technically stopped. They do them once in a while. They just don't do them all the time. But now they're definitely gearing up for more advertising, because they're getting the new Queen Anne built out, and Queen Anne will need, you know, to be very heavily marketed as a new ship, because I don't know if anybody noticed, Queen Anne does not look like previous Cunard ships. Her interiors are going away from the Art Deco style, and they're more modern looking, without wall paneling. So, like wood wall paneling. So, yeah. It's unfortunate, because that's one of the things I really love about the Cunard line, is that they still, you know, they make all their ships with that Art Deco style. and a lot of wood wall paneling. I love wood wall paneling, especially if it's a nice wood. Of course, theirs might be fake, but it still looks really nice. But yeah, the newest ship, Queen Anne, I'm not a big fan of it. It's not the kind of ship I would want to stay on. It's too bright. I feel like I would need sunglasses to walk around it, and it's too modern. I've had enough modern stuff. I want to go back in time. I'm like, I want to see interiors that look old, you know. God, the noise outside, it's just like constant. It's like always sirens all the time. I don't even live in a populated area either. That's the funny thing. I live like way in the outskirts, but I just happen to live next to a street that has both the police and fire department on it. So it's like just constantly. To answer your question, wow, I don't think Titanic would have survived even if her compartments went up to D deck. I think what would have helped if the top of her watertight compartments were capped like the Queen Mary's were. Queen Mary's were like sealed up towards the top, with the only openings for crew were watertight openings. Titanic didn't have that. The openings that led into those rooms were not watertight from the top, just at the bottom. So I don't think it would have mattered, honestly. Like there's like on Titanic, there were doors that led into the various boiler rooms from Scotland Road, and those doors were not watertight. They were just ordinary doors. So yeah, that would have been a problem for Titanic anyway. So yeah, I don't think it would have helped. Let's Build asks, how long ago did they bring Queen Mary over to California, and how did they take it? Queen Mary was brought into Long Beach in December of 1967, although it took a whole month for the ship to sail there. The Queen Mary sailed under her own power, so she in order to help them to make money back from the voyage, because it would have been a very expensive voyage to move the Queen Mary all the way to Long Beach without passengers. And they would have had to move her under her own power because, frankly, that was just easier than towing her. So, and she still had a very, her engine room was still functioning perfectly fine. So there was no reason to gut her first and then tow her. So they decided to sail her under her own power to Long Beach. But to make money back from that, they decided to advertise it as the last great cruise, or whatever it was, the greatest cruise or something like that. And they filled the ship with passengers who were celebrating. And the idea was it would be like a 42-day voyage from Southampton to Long Beach. Back then, the Queen Mary was too large to fit through the Panama Canal, so she had to sail around Cape Horn of South America and come all the way back up. And so it was a very long voyage, the longest voyage she had ever had. And part of it was actually really difficult because getting across the Atlantic, the way that they had scheduled it and the places she would go, she couldn't make it across the Atlantic with all 4 engines running, believe it or not, because the distance in that particular part of the Atlantic they were going was much wider than her normal transatlantic run, which was closer together between the two countries. She was going around the middle of the Atlantic and to cross over, and that was a much farther distance. So to save on fuel, during that segment of the voyage, she only ran with 2 engines going, so only 2 of the propellers were actually operating. So that was a pretty interesting little fun fact. But yeah, but for the rest of the voyage, I believe she used all 4 propellers at times. And then she came all the way up to Long Beach, and all the passengers disembarked. and they started closing her off and closing her down and getting her, you know, ready for storage, because they didn't immediately start work on her. They put her away for a while until they had the plans and the funding necessary to convert her to a hotel. Artupiep says, if you go to New York, will you go to the old ocean liner piers? We'll see, because if I do go to New York, it'll be for that transatlantic crossing. My friend and I plan to stop off at the World Trade Center Memorial, but the thing is that that's still very far away from where the ocean liners were docked. So I don't know if we'll go all the way up there. And there's really nothing to see when we go there. Most of those old piers have since either been removed or rebuilt. So there's really nothing to see when you go down there except cruise ships. Wow says, what is your favorite ship besides Queen Mary? Queen Elizabeth. I have a top 10 list. It's on my channel. You can look it up. So you'll see all my top 10s. Alright, let's see. Zom Games, to answer your question about the funnels, it wasn't necessarily that 4 funnels was more stylistic. That was only a tiny fragment of the reason why ships had 4 funnels. Most ships had 4 funnels back then because of the amount of exhaust they needed to ventilate. Because ships like Mauretania and Lusitania, they had a lot of boiler rooms. They needed 4 funnels to ventilate all of that stuff. Titanic only had a 4th funnel. Well, first of all, to make her look more even. But the other thing too was that the 4th funnel was used to exhaust the kitchen smoke, because Titanic's kitchens used coal for its stoves and ovens and stuff. So they needed to exhaust all that smoke, and so they did that through the 4th funnel. And then also there was some ventilation. I think the boiler... No, I'm sorry. I think the engine room ventilated its hot air up out the top of the 4th funnel. So it was always out of necessity. Funnels were always built out of necessity, but they could be useful for making a ship look more... Lack of better words, because my brain is just, like... just not working right now. It could make a ship look better, but that was never the key reason why ships had 4 funnels. It was always for utility. Always for utility. Olympic says, I don't remember if I asked this, but is Queen Anne an ocean liner? No, she is a cruise ship. Sorry, I'm just reading everybody's comments and just seeing what it is I can answer, because I am behind on the comments. Well, right, Tupia, like somebody else was saying earlier, having a more modern ship for Cunard is actually good for them. I mean, I don't like to admit it, but it is. It's good for them because some people, some people want to have a Cunard experience, but they don't like the look of the Art Deco liners. They want something modern. So that helps satisfy the people who want a Cunard experience, but on a modern looking ship. So that's why, I mean, as long as we have, as long as we have at least one Art Deco ship, I think I'd still be happy because that'll be the ship I would sail on, you know. But yeah, I would be upset if they completely got rid of all the Art Deco style and just went with modern. Then I would be upset. But you know, when you're a big company, you got to try to appeal to everybody. You can't afford to discriminate and only appeal to a certain kind of person. So Conrad asks if I can go into more detail about the coal-fired stoves in the galley of Titanic. Yeah, so at the time, a lot of kitchens still required burning fire in order to make it work, and so there was no way to like store that much like gas, like a gaseous gas, if you know what I mean, for doing stoves and stuff. So the next best thing was to use coal. Coal was something that they always had on the ship, and so yeah. So yes, they did keep coal in the kitchens. I think they would bring up bins of coal, I believe it was. Like their coal was stored deep down in the bottom of the ship. They'd put them in these bins, and then they'd use elevators to take them up to the kitchens. And then from there, the coal was crushed into small pieces that could fit in the stoves. And then, because the ones that were put in the boilers were huge chunks of coal, but the ones in the stoves were very small. So they would cut them up into smaller pieces, and then they would use those in the kitchens. And so, quite often the stoves, it was usually a combination range and oven. And what they did was, there would be the oven, and then there'd be a little compartment for the coal. And you'd burn the coal here, and then it was designed to allow the heat to radiate into the oven and into the bottom of the range, and then it would flow out up a flue that went into the ventilation that vented it out up the stack. And so so that's kind of how it worked, and that's how they needed to do things. But as time went on, they quickly replaced that coal burning stoves and stuff with electric ranges and ovens. Queen Mary had entirely electric equipment, and it's actually really amazing because a lot of people, like, as a chef myself, I was classically trained. I've been the chef of 2 different businesses in the past. A lot of people complain about electric stoves and ovens. They're like, oh, it just doesn't compare to gas, because of the fire. And I'm like, actually, electric is way better for cooking. It's just that most people aren't used to it, so they think it's worse. But it's actually way better for cooking. First of all, because it's cheaper. But second of all, because you have better control over what you're cooking. When you're working with gas, the temperature can fluctuate. You lose a lot of energy because when you have a gas range, the heat rises up and away from the pan instead of directly underneath the pan. So the pans don't heat properly, and then again you're wasting energy. So a lot of that gas that's burning is going up away from the pan. So actually using electric is all better. And a good example is, look at Queen Mary. I would say that Queen Mary's kitchen served such amazing food at the time. I'd say the 1930s, late 1940s. The food was so good. Today it would be almost Michelin star level. And yet they cooked everything in electric equipment. All electric equipment. You never heard complaints from that. So it was just, you had better control. So Yeah, it's pretty amazing. The reason why I went off on that tangent is because I was watching a video recently where like LA has enacted this new law where buildings now, if especially restaurants, have to have electric equipment. They can't use gas anymore. And part of the reason why they're going with that is, I think, because, well, obviously gas explodes, and during earthquakes, gas lines can break, and that's what causes fires to break out. But a lot of the businesses are like, that's not fair. Cooking with electricity is not easy at all, and it's like it's way better. And the funny thing is that even one owner of a Chinese restaurant, a very fancy Chinese restaurant, had said you can't cook Chinese food on an electric stove. It doesn't work. And he was like, you need gas. I'm like, no, you don't need gas. It's like anybody who works with a wok can tell you that the key thing is having your heat focused in a particular area of the wok. So you don't need fire to blast at the wok. In fact, there are induction stoves designed for woks, for commercial kitchens, and those are much better to cook with than gas. First of all, because it's safer, but the other thing too is because you're focusing all that heat in the area that you need it, and so it just works better. And so yeah, that's just a funny thing. People are so used to cooking with gas. Steve says, Alex, I'd have to disagree with that. Ventilation in the kitchens and engine rooms could be handled through less conspicuous means. The true reason for the fourth funnel is because traveling public recognized the fourth funnel were more powerful, more stability and safety and speed. I think that played a part in it, Steve, but I don't think that that's 100% the reason why they had a fourth funnel. I mean, obviously there was the aesthetic aspect. There was the aspect that, the fastest ships had 4 funnels, but they were ventilating a lot of stuff. And yes, a funnel is more conspicuous, but we were just having a conversation last week, not us, but I was doing a tea time last week about the ventilation on these ships and how everyone thinks Titanic didn't have cowl vents. They're like, oh, well, look, you have Mauretania with all those cowl vents and Lusitania with her trash can shaped cowl vents. Titanic didn't have them. And it's like, no, she did. She had a lot of them. But one of the reasons they were able to reduce the amount of cowl vents that Titanic had was through that fourth funnel. So having a fourth funnel not only made the ship look more even, look, more fast, or not even, but symmetrical is what I should say. Look more symmetrical, look more fast, but also it allowed for less cowl vents. And that, that I think played a huge part. Artupiep says, if the San Andreas fault were to give way tomorrow, how prepared is the Queen Mary and what damage will there be to her? If it were to happen tomorrow, first off, there's no passengers aboard the ship right now. So technically there wouldn't be any danger of trying to evacuate people. I think there's some security guards on there and stuff. Maybe some maintenance workers, but they could easily get off the ship if they need to. There won't be any stampeding, you know, is what I'm trying to say. So I wouldn't be worried about that. But she does not currently have a very... no, that doesn't matter. Let me think. I'm trying to think, like, I don't think there really would be any problem, honestly. There might be some things in terms of, like, the elevators and stuff shaking the outside the ship. Like, there's elevator towers, there's 2 towers. That might shake and stuff, that might get some damage, but the ship itself is sitting in water. So the ship would barely feel anything. So there really is no fear of that happening right now. The only thing I can think of is if there was a power outage in which you would need the power to help people get off the ship, if that's what they needed, was to get off the ship. But even then, there's nobody on there right now, just maintenance workers and stuff like that. So there's really no, at the moment, there's nothing wrong with that. And I think she has a working emergency backup generator at the moment. It's just not big enough to handle the future things being put on the ship right now. But it is big enough to handle emergency lighting on the ship if there was power outage tomorrow. So I really don't see any problem, honestly. Like, I think the Queen Mary is pretty good for an earthquake. In fact, if I was in California during a major earthquake, I would actually hope to be on the Queen Mary. Because if there's anywhere in California I want to be during an earthquake, it's the Queen Mary. Because she won't shake like the rest of California will, because she's sitting on the water. Brian, to answer your question, I think they're already using the most efficient fuel they can to power their ships. I don't see... I don't think, to best of my knowledge, that there is another alternative at the moment that they could use. For WoW's question, I don't know. White Star Line, it had to do with how many ships White Star Line had at the moment versus how many Cunard had at the moment. So I don't remember what that is. It was kind of a landslide, I think. I think Cunard had quite a number of more ships at the time than White Star had. So that's why White Star had the lesser portion of the Cunard White Star Company. So, but I don't remember those numbers, so I can't answer that question for you at the moment. Yeah, the sirens are back. I know, it's constant. Like, constant sirens all the time. You should see what it's like when I need to, like, record stuff for my YouTube channel. I have to keep my doors and windows shut all day long when I record and stuff, because it'll show up in my microphones. And it's tough because on days like this where it's a little bit warm, the apartment will just keep getting warmer and warmer. Zom games, I don't know. I haven't seen too much on Titanic 2, so I haven't kept up with it. Crittenden asked, did you ever think about working on the Queen Mary? Yeah. I'm trying to remember what year it was. I think it was around 2013. I had applied to work there as a maintenance worker because at the time I was working for Disney, but I needed a second job, and I had a lot of time on my hands because working for Disney, they didn't give me enough hours, and so I wanted to get a full-time job on the side. I had so much time, like so much time on my hands. So I was like, there's no reason why I can't have a full-time job. And so I applied at the Queen Mary for a job position as a maintenance worker because I had previous maintenance worker experience with Hilton Hotels and with several different property management companies. And they never contacted me back. They never said anything. I applied. They never even said, oh, we have your application. Like, nothing. Never got anything. So... yeah, and, I want to say maybe a year ago, little over a year ago, everybody was expecting Queen Mary to open in 2021, just before we found out the news about Urban Commons, you know, all that stuff. So I was thinking, oh, maybe what I'll do is I'll apply to work as a tour guide there or something, because I used to do that for Disney at one point. I was a tour guide for Disney, so I had tour guide experience, and I thought, well, you know, I'm learning all this stuff about Queen Mary, so maybe I could, you know, do a lot more research, and I could be a, you know, better, you know, I could do like a better job as a tour guide versus anything else. So I thought about doing that, but the Queen Mary never reopened, and then we got the news about Urban Commons and all that stuff, and so then we were like, oh, okay, it's not, you know, that's not on the table, so, yeah, but, yeah, that's pretty much my story. It never really went anywhere, but it would have been cool to work on the Queen Mary, I think. I would have loved to see that every day, you know, be on the ship and see the Art Deco style every single day. Oh, okay, so it's 5:30. I have so much to do tonight. I have to make dinner later, and then I have to clean. Yeah, because the apartment is in need of a cleaning. But yeah, so tomorrow I might be on another tea time live stream. Maybe Chris will join me or something. So you might see that. I won't schedule it yet because I just simply don't know for sure if we will do a live stream. But you will get a notification when it does happen. That's for sure. Until then, the next live stream will be on Sunday. And this Saturday is another episode of Queen Mary's Lost Places. It'll be a continuation of the last episode, which was about the various lounges and first-class spaces up on Promenade Deck. So there'll be more of that. We'll talk about like what those spaces looked like before, all the way through like what they look like today and what they were versus what they are now and stuff like that. So there'll be lots of that there. All right. Okay, folks. I'll see you all next time, and have a good one. Bye-bye.